Welcome to Season 3 of Sunday Conversations. Thank you for your continued support. Get ready as we embark on this year's journey of great content. Sit back, enjoy, and delight yourself with these conversations. Hey everybody, welcome to Sunday Conversations. I am your boy, Isaac Davis, and today we will be talking about men's health. Did you guys know that the American Heart Association states that 1 in 3 adult men have some form of cardiovascular disease? African American men account for 100,000 more deaths than Caucasian men. Strokes targets more than 3 million men. High blood pressure is common in males under the age of 45. But we're going to get into this. I got this super awesome, smart young woman to bring it in. Look, we have a nickname for her, and her nickname is Always in School. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to bring in Dr. Angela McCormick.
So excited to be here with you this morning and talking about men's health. So let's get into it, like the whys of men's health.
Before we start, let's give everybody an introduction of you and tell a little about yourself and your profession.
So I am Dr. Angela McCormick. I have a DNP, so a Doctorate of Nursing Practice. I am a board certified family nurse practitioner, and I just recently completed my another degree, and I will also be functioning as a board certified psych mental health nurse practitioner. So those are my most recent credentials, and I have been a nurse practitioner for 12 years, working in family health and family medicine.
So I'm going to start it off, and I'm just going to let you roll with it, however that you want to go with it. But I do have a couple of questions that I do have for you, and then we just go down through there. So my very first question is, how important is it to know your family medical history when it comes to cardiovascular disease?
So it's very important. Cardiovascular disease is a predisposer. So, I mean, it's important to know so that you can take the preventative walks to prevent from having like stroke, heart attacks. I know, like in my family, there is a strong history of cardiovascular disease on my father's side of the family, and just recently I began to learn about some, like even with myself. So for years I have been fine, but just recently beginning to see the factor that is beginning to play in my life, and I'm a woman, which cardiovascular disease can affect women just as well as men. But it's important to know these factors so that to know your history, so that you can make sure that you're taking the necessary steps to prevent from falling into having a heart attack or a stroke.
Okay, so we often hear about healthy men, women, as well as male and female athletes that are healthy, dying of heart attacks or strokes, and they're in great health. Why is this so?
Well, that probably could be more genetics. So it could be something that they are born with. And so now when it comes to sports medicine, everyone should have a sports medicine physical before they start playing that sport. So there is a syndrome called the Morphin syndrome that athletes are now supposed to be screened for, because it do put them at risk. Again, this is where family history comes in and plays a part, and whoever's doing a physical or doing that sports physical, these are the questions that they should be asking the athlete, like, what is your family history? What are the dynamics, one of the biggest questions that we ask is, if they had a family member that died of a heart attack before the age of 50, because that too puts them at risk. But whenever it comes to young or appear to be young, healthy athletes, again, this could be something that's genetics, that they should be screened for.
Okay, awesome. Does a clean bill of a health mean that you would not have the risk of any form of heart disease?
No. No.
Okay. Can you expound on that some?
So being healthy, that is important. Diet, exercise, just lifestyle changes that circles around that. All that's important, but still there are other factors that can affect the heart. Stress, can also play a part in heart disease or someone having a heart attack. So a clean bill of health, you have to look at what that entails. Does that mean that the person is healthy weight wise? Does that mean that the person cholesterol levels are normal? What are the other risk factors that may play a part in that? Does a person have diabetes or hypertension? Because all that plays a part in a clean bill of health. So when you're looking at someone who may have hypertension, is that under control? Is that being controlled with medicine? Is it controlled? Is it uncontrolled? A diabetic, is it controlled? So someone can have other like chronic medical conditions, and it can be stable. So a clean bill of health also means that if there are other chronic medical conditions, that they are being well maintained. So there are other things that could too put your health at risk for heart disease. Okay,
awesome. So I know that you got tons of information shared. So why don't you go ahead and elaborate on the content that you want to share with us about heart disease?
Okay, so let me ask you this. Did you know that June is considered National Men's Health Awareness Month?
No, I did not know that.
Okay, now you know.
Now I know.
So why is that important? It's important because men's health awareness should be a lifelong journey, not just whenever a man gets older and start having health problems, but there should be preventative measures in place as well. And so on that note, in 1992, June was established and started celebrating as National Men's Health Awareness Month. So why? What's the importance of that? The purpose is to heighten the awareness. Why do you want to heighten the awareness? So the whole key is preventable health. So we want to prevent a problem before it becomes a problem. So the key is early detection and treatment, not just among men, but boys as well. So health should start in early childhood. But the whole purpose of National Men's Health Month is to start encouraging men. Because a man can go out and change that flat tire or keep the oil change, but would not manage their health, which is just as important to take care of their bodies. So what does that include? It includes eating right, exercising, and working to prevent heart disease, working to prevent diabetes, working to prevent hypertension, working to prevent elevated cholesterol, or what we call hyperlipidemia. So prevention is the key to men's health.
Okay, so can you elaborate some on the healthy eating portion?
So it's a lifestyle change. And what I mean by that is, so rather than going to grab that bag of potato chips, an apple instead. So
You know, we got to have
fresh.
those good snacks. Those are the good
Gotta have
snacks we
those
talk
good
about.
snacks, but those good snacks have to be eaten in moderation.
Okay.
Candies, cookies. I mean, all the stuff that makes us happy can also make us fat and unhealthy. Um, so it's a lifestyle change, and what it's a mindset. So if things are going to be done, it has to be done in moderation. But we have to keep in mind that exercise and eating right is a lifelong journey, and research shows that men's health start in the 20s.
Okay. Wow. In our 20s.
So
yeah, that is true, because we've heard, we've seen on the news where people have died of a heart attack in their 20s. So yes, that is true.
yes. So it's an annual physical. What does that include? It includes blood pressure checks, weight checks, and then as men get older, there are more screenings that are according to like the task force. So prostate screenings, which is a big one to me, because it's near and dear, because my father and my brother both had prostate cancer, but it was detected early enough that they were able to fix the problem.
Wow, awesome.
I always feel like no one, if it's caught early enough, should die of prostate or even colon cancer.
Okay. What about exercising? How important is that?
It's important. We should exercise, or men, everybody in general, but since we're talking about men, at least 3 to 4 times a week for a good 20 to 30 minutes. And I know you hear some people say, well, I walk all day at work. I'm up and down the steps at work. Yes, you're active, but it's not the same. So you want to walk or exercise, cardio exercise, for at least a good 20 to 30 minutes, because you want to keep your heart at a steady rate. So
So now, what if that walk at the office is going up the steps that you giving it a vigorous walk? Now, is that effective versus just taking my time going up the steps?
Well, the mere fact that you're going up the steps is a plus. Okay. So you probably often hear take the steps instead of the elevator. So just that alone, because it is endurance. I mean, if you get on a treadmill, it's good to walk at an incline, because that's where you build your endurance. And so if you're walking up the steps, if you can go at a faster pace, I guess that's okay. But just the mere fact that you're going up the steps is good.
Okay. So how important is for the smokers out there? What a smoking does, or nicotine does, when it comes to heart disease? How does it affect the health of us when we smoke or use any type of nicotine type products?
Well, what nicotine does is it affects your arteries, and it can affect the coronary arteries in your legs and your heart. So it does play, and also in your lungs. So it puts you at risk for respiratory problems, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which too, smoking alone can have a part on your health. But whenever it comes to coronary artery disease, it affects the vessels in your heart, because it causes it to be constricted.
Now, one thing that I've learned here recently is this sleep thing. Being in the military for 21 years, our sleep pattern is all the way crazy. But I'm recently saw a report, and then I went to the American Heart Association to actually back it up. American Heart Association said that we should, as an adult, we should be getting a minimum between 8 to 9 hours of sleep. 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That's a little hard for me. And is that really reasonable to get that length of sleep? And I can speak for myself. I am great from 4 hours to 6 hours of sleep. I am awesome. If I get more than 6 hours of sleep, it seems like that my entire day that I am sluggish my entire day, and it feel like that my body has been like in this coma, and it's like I can't get out of this. So for someone that's like me, that my optimum body function is getting between 4 to 6 hours of sleep, then when I've tried to get the 7 or more hours of sleep, I feel completely sluggish and drained the entire day.
Okay. Well, I mean, sleep obviously is important. I mean, that's whenever the body is in rest. That's whenever the body is restoring itself. So according to the American Heart Association and the statistics that you have, or what it's shown, it was based off of research. So based on the research, it's saying the body needs an average of 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night, because that's what the body needs to recover. So if you're sleeping 4 to 6 hours, that could be because your body have become adjusted to sleeping 4 to 6 hours a night. But in reality, we should sleep or try and rest at least 7 to 8 hours a night whenever we go to sleep. The average person is not. Our average sleep is probably like 4 to 5 to 6 hours a night. The problem is, over time, that begins to take a toll on our body whenever we're not getting adequate amount of sleep. So take, for instance, someone who may have sleep apnea or chronic obstructive sleep disorder. Over time, that begins to have an effect on a person's heart. And again, this is why sleep is so important, because that's the time that our body should be in rest mode. So not get and play game on phone or watch TV and allow us to just fall asleep. I mean, we should get in bed and rest. No phone, no television. Should have practice good sleep hygiene. Again, is for our body's total health sake. So it's important to get adequate sleep at night.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So you actually spoke on controlling our cholesterol. What's the good medium in there? What's the ideal thing? Because what we got, the HDL, and we got the
LDL, total cholesterol.
Yes. So can you help us understand what the difference is between those, and what's the balance that we need in between those?
Well, again, like for someone who may have a significant family history of heart disease, then it may need to be a little bit lower. But the LDL is deemed as the bad cholesterol. So generally, you want that less than 100. Depends on what your other chronic medical conditions are. It may need to be a little bit lower than that. With your HDL, which is considered or deemed as the good cholesterol, again, that should be within a certain level. So typically, you want that like greater than 30. And then when you look at your total cholesterol, that's generally, you want that less than like 200. So when you consistently see those numbers elevated or higher than what it should be, then what's happening is your arteries, wherever you have arteries, your neck, your carotid arteries, your heart, your legs, you begin to build up plaque in those arteries. And over time, that plaque can cause the artery to narrow. And whenever that occurs, that's when people may have a heart attack or stroke, because of the blocked or clogged arteries. So cholesterol is very important as well. So, I mean, again, that's why it's important to have an annual physical, so that cholesterol, blood pressure can be checked as well.
Okay. So you also talked about managing our blood sugar. Now, we like sweets now. We like them. But okay, so how do we properly manage our sugar? Is there, do we go get that check? Can we measure it ourselves? Or is there, or should I say, is there a way that we can measure it ourselves? What's the range that we should be in to make sure? Because I know that, that when we have high blood sugar, that it could lead to diabetes. So can you talk about that for me?
So there's a normal level, there's pre-diabetes, and then there's diabetes. So pre-diabetes is usually whenever your number is like 5.6. And again, it depends on what laboratory and what the scale is. But anything that's generally between 5.6 to 6.3, 6.4, again, depending on the lab range, is considered pre-diabetes. Anything that's 6.5 or higher is deemed as diabetes. Now that's based on a blood level or a lab called a hemoglobin A1C. Again, that goes back to annual physical exams. So if your hemoglobin A1C is in that pre-diabetes stage, usually your provider will tell you diet, exercise, okay, lifestyle changes. So when you're looking at lifestyle changes, it goes back to exercise. So you want to make sure that you are exercising at least 3 to 4 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes. Cardio. Whenever you're looking at lifestyle changes, so you have to modify the amount of carbohydrates that are taken in each day. So carbohydrates, sweets, I'll say pastries, cakes, cookies, sugary foods, all that plays a part in your circulating blood level. So when you're talking hemoglobin A1C, some people might think, well, hey, I hear this all the time. Yes, I ate a honey bun this morning. That's why my blood sugar is high. But when you look at a hemoglobin A1C, it doesn't look at what you ate today or yesterday. It looks at a circulating blood sugar over the past 90 days. So that's what that average number come from. Now, if a fasting glucose level is done, which means that you had not eaten within a certain period of time and that blood sugar is elevated, that too can deem you as having diabetes. If there is like blood glucose in your urine, that's a sign too that, hey, your kidneys are not filtering sugar like it should. So that's another, it's not the official diagnosis, but those things that you look at, like, hey, you could be at risk of diabetes, or there could be some form of kidney damage because your kidneys are not filtering the sugar out like it should. But the golden tool is a hemoglobin A1C. So again, it goes back to, hyperlipidemia or high cholesterol, diabetes, blood pressure. It all goes back to diet, exercise, lifestyle changes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So you just hit the one that the one that everybody don't like, and that's that blood pressure. So can you talk about how important it is at managing your blood pressure too, and how that if you don't, how that it leads to heart disease?
So blood pressure, again, it goes, you have a normal range, there pre-hypertension, and then there's hypertension. So those numbers, again, is based on research. And according to what we call the JNC, and I don't know if there's a current one out, but the latest one was JNC 8. So again, based on research and what the standards is, So now a blood pressure, the top number, which is systolic, that is consistently in the 130s, and diastolic, which is the bottom number, that is consistently in the 80s range, is considered prehypertension. So again, it goes back to diet, exercise. But a blood pressure that is consistently the top number in the 140s and the bottom number consistently in the 90s, then that's more along the lines of hypertension. And that's whenever, of course, medication gets implemented. If a person's blood pressure is not controlled, then that is putting them at risk of organ failure, heart, kidneys. I mean, hypertension is near and dear to me because that is what my capstone project was done on among African Americans. Because what I began to see was a practice that I was at that time. I was seeing young African Americans coming in and was on dialysis. Dialysis because their blood pressure was not controlled and they went into kidney failure. So when a blood pressure is consistently not controlled, it can affect your sight, puts you at risk of a stroke. And again, the biggest organ failure that I see is kidneys. And once the kidneys are damaged, it's not reversible. So my thing, especially to the younger population who just think that, hey, I'm young, it's not going to happen to me. So my advice to them is, okay, so you are buying yourself a ticket to a dialysis seat. Because if your blood pressure is not well controlled, and then they begin to take it serious. Like, okay, I do whatever I got to do. I'll take my blood pressure medicine. I'll cut back on my sodium intake, which all plays a part in controlling blood pressure.
You know, you actually mentioned something earlier about dialysis. I've seen cases where people in their 20s, healthy people, athletic people in their 20s are on dialysis, and then you said that that's based on their genetic makeup.
I mean,
but
you would say a part in it as well.
You know, you would say, how could someone so young, especially someone that's in their 20s, end up on dialysis, in which we know they'll be there for the rest of their life, right? So, but how someone that young end up on dialysis?
Again, it goes back to, I mean, it could be other chronic medical problems that they have. For instance, someone like the youngest patient that I'm seeing, he's in his early 30s and he is on dialysis. And so especially whenever I see them that young, I always ask why, what happened. And so I use this guy an example. He was type 1 diabetic. So, and he was diagnosed at the age of 5. And so now in his 31, he's on dialysis. But he started going into kidney failure at around 29. And so again, I asked him, hey, what happened? And he said, I didn't take it serious. I ate what I wanted to eat. I really didn't take my insulin or control my blood sugar like I was supposed to. And now here I am on dialysis. So some of that, again, it can be genetics. It can be because of another chronic medical problem. But it all boils down to just making sure that it is controlled.
Okay. Awesome. Where do you have any last thoughts on heart disease? Anything that you missed that we as men need to know about having a healthy heart?
Well, I would just say that, men just need to make sure that it's a part of their daily regimen. I mean, just like getting up, taking a shower, eating, health part should be a part of their daily activities. to make sure that they are exercising and eating right, and most of all, getting checkups like they should, annual health checkups. Now, let me just back up. Some things play a part in that. Some people may not have health insurance. I mean, there are other disparities that may affect why a person is not getting the care that they should. So on that note, always say, reach out to your community resources, the health department, see what free clinics are available, to just make sure that, or if possible, apply for like whatever government aids are out there, Medicaid, to do whatever it takes so that they can have the proper care to ensure that they have a healthy heart.
Okay, awesome. Angela, I want to thank you. Sorry, Dr. McCormick, I want to thank you for coming to Sunday Conversations to give us some education about men's health, and specifically about heart disease. I gotta know that it's so much more that we can talk about, but I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, because if y'all don't know, the child is busy. This is like our 6th time rescheduling her to get here. So, but hey, thank you. Now
there's still lots of notes.
Yes. So now, question. So I have to ask a question. Is there any more degrees coming?
To be determined.
To be determined. Hey, I told y'all
it's time for the next phase, and that is like getting out in the community and going to work. One of the business that I have on horizon is CPR. Also mental health, and just getting out and educating about hypertension and heart disease. Awesome.
Well, like I said, I want to thank you for coming in and giving this knowledge to us and sharing it with us, that will help us to take better care of our heart, so that it doesn't lead us down the road to where that we either have a stroke, heart attack, or we end up with diabetes or
early demise. Yes.
Exactly. So, Dr. McCormick, I definitely want to thank you again for coming to Sunday Conversations. I greatly appreciate it. Awesome.
Okay.
Man, we just had some awesome information concerning heart disease. If you do not, or if you have not had the opportunity to go get yourself checked, please go get yourself checked. You want to make sure that your heart is healthy. You want to make sure that your blood, that your blood is healthy. You want to make sure that you're not on the verge of heart disease or high blood pressure or diabetes. You want to make sure that you go out and get checked. Men, we are the most stubborn ones that don't want to go get our yearly checkups. Make sure that we go get our checkups, and the more repetition that we get with that, the more that we take care of our health, the more that we find out things before they become too serious. So, hey, thank you for watching Sunday Conversations. Make sure that you subscribe, comment, share, and like the content. So, look, I want to tell you guys about next week. Check us out. Next week, we go on location. We are on location at the barbershop. I got 4 unique men that's talking about relationships. So make sure you tune in next week. We got the barbershop. Until then, this is your boy Isaac. I'm out. Peace. Thank you for watching Sunday Conversations. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook. We look forward to seeing you next week as we continue to bring you relevant content. Remember, God has a purpose